Hey, it's the Road Show, and I'm Ryan Barkey in Denver, Colorado, and I'm here with my pal Alan Orchard in the UK.
Hello.
And we're trying something new here. You may know me from the Steering Committee podcast. I did that for about 4 years, 185 episodes. We had a lot of fun with it, but it was time to bring that to an end after 4 years. Along the way, I met Alan, and Alan is a longtime automotive industry insider. I met Alan when he was at Rivian out in California. We actually met at Bruce Meyer's garage because that's what you do when you're in LA, I guess. And you are back in the UK. You're now back at McLaren.
At McLaren,
working on
yeah.
some cool stuff.
Yep. Yeah, it was obviously I was in California I was working for a US company for 6 years, Rivian, and I was in California, and again, a group of buddies had an opportunity to go to Bruce Meyer's place, and what a place. And obviously you were just wrapping up with your podcast with him, and if anyone hasn't listened to it, they should. It's a fantastic listen. He's a great guy. And you, tried to get me on the show, and I said, I can't, I'm under contract, I'm not allowed to talk to anyone. And then an opportunity came up, a window came up between leaving Rivian and starting at McLaren, and we did it. It was good fun, and it gave me a taste for being able to enjoy talking about different experiences I've had, and there are so many that are pushed to the back of my mind that as you're walking around, like I was, at an event on the weekend, and you see a car and you go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I designed that part, So I thought it'd be nice to be able to talk about some of these stories. They may not be interesting to many people, but some people might be a bit of an insight into what goes on. And I reached out to you and said, hey, can you help me understand how to get a podcast off the ground? And you went, well, now might be a good time. Let's join forces. And we talked about this for a little while. We hung out, we had a bit of a conversation, and we gave it a trial. And it's been a really interesting start of, and you learn a lot about yourself when you start to put yourself out there as well. So, I've never done this before. There was a TV documentary about a team I started once before, and that was a very different experience. But you learn about the technology, trying to put this show together, and we've definitely recorded some bloopers that we'll put out at a later date. We've had some weird and wonderful technical glitches. Yeah. So as these episodes come out, I will plead for people to be gentle on us because with broadband connections and learning that you need a code on who talks when who doesn't, and
Yeah, this is a little different. I should mention that we have two of our good friends, Lindsay Jesh and Dan Pilling, who will be joining us regularly as well. And to your point, there's a joke in the podcast world that the bar is very, very low, and it is. But to do a good podcast, the bar is quite high. And so, we're not going to do anything if we can't do it right. And so, but you and I, we got along famously from the get-go, and obviously recognize the passion in you. And you have this storied. I mean, you truly are an automotive legend, an engineer. You were with. No, you're way too modest, and that's the problem. And one of my jobs here is going to be to get this out of you. But you were with Ascari Cars, in the UK. You were on the Mercedes F1 team, the McLaren F1 team. You have worked with both McLaren race and road cars. Again, you were at Rivian. I know I'm leaving a few things out. I'm just some guy who's into cars who kind of fell into this podcast thing. It's opened a lot of doors for me. Now I'm hooked. And so, when we connected.
You're like the anchorman. You're a big deal. Colorado cars and coffee. You're the guy. Yeah. You're the main attraction now. So
it's a small community. No, it's a great community here, and I have met some wonderful friends. It's been a funky adventure, and this is when I've told you this, Alan. When I was a kid, I wanted nothing more than to be a writer for Car and Driver magazine. Right, that's all I wanted. And in fact, I wrote Car and Driver, and I said, what would it take to become a writer at your magazine someday? And they wrote back, and I think it was Chubba Chetta who, as these things go, I've had the pleasure of meeting now a couple of times, wrote back and said, well, your best path is one of two things: go to college and get a degree in journalism, or in automotive engineering. And as I've told other people, I looked at my English and my math grades and I knew neither of those were in the cards for me. And so, this is a way. I would never claim to be an automotive journalist. I'm truly just an enthusiast with a microphone. And all these years later, now I find myself on, on road tests with Chubba Chetta and other, esteemed automotive journalists. And so
This is
I'm,
great. We don't have we don't have studios.
yeah,
These are our houses, and this is um, albeit ends up becoming a relatively expensive IT setup.
yeah,
There are good and there's a whole spectrum of podcasts out there, and some people have studios and they're doing a great job, and they're invited to vehicle launches, and there's other people that are in a like a caravan in a field down from Goodwood. It's the complete mix, and they're
yeah,
all interesting and appeal to different people.
yeah,
But this has opened up doors for you to be
yeah,
invited to those things, and you're getting great connections. It's been an opportunity for me to uh, get to talk to other industry people or personalities in the sport or in the game. Obviously, we have Freddie Hunt, great guy, Andrew Marriott. When you hear his voice, you'll go, "I've heard that guy a million
yeah,
times on different sporting events that I've watched." It's really it's opening up doors for us because I've sat in like the proverbial mushroom in the dark room, cranking out designs
yeah,
and releasing parts to, meet production demands. But I haven't had the opportunity to drive enough cars, or like I drive the cars that we design and, other benchmark cars, reference cars that we use. But then someone will drift in and you've prepped a car for them to take it away for, a weekend or a week. And you go, I want that guy's job. I
yeah,
want to get the invites.
yeah.
So, this is hopefully a path into getting a little bit better connected and having some doors and opportunities, which obviously we will share with everyone as we go. So,
No, and I think this is a great opportunity for those listening or watching too to get a peek behind the curtain of this world. I mean, we are very fortunate, you and I. And I guess this begs the question: why listen to us or watch us? Why are we different? I think one of the things that really surprised me as I've gotten a little further into this world is how few people doing what we're doing are true automotive enthusiasts. There's a
yeah,
lot of influencing going on, right? And I think
yeah,
that's something you'd hear from others as well. We're doing this because this is our passion, that this is, we bleed car enthusiasm. We just are fortunate to have an audience now we'd be sitting here talking to each other anyway, right?
we would be doing this over a beer or
Exactly.
something. So,
Exactly. It's nice to have a few of you join us as well. So, and I think that's the other difference. These guests that we have are friends. Like these are friendships relationships that we've, fostered organically. I mean, these are our buddies, and I can't wait to share, some of the names of the folks that have agreed to be on the show here in the next few months. But it is a little different because I am in Colorado. You're in the UK. Dan is in Seattle. Lindsay splits her time between the Pacific Northwest and Los Angeles. And so we are doing this on a platform called Riverside. This is all virtual. It's kind of like fancy Zoom. When I did the steering committee, it was just us folks in the garage where I still am, around a bottle of bourbon, sometimes a cigar. There was something kind of magical about it. This is going to take a little getting used to, but we're going to get there,
yeah, you've got your elliptical trainer now as well. So
Is that in the
you're
background? I told you that was going to become a place to hang wet car towels, and unfortunately it
hang
has.
your sweat microfiber, yeah,
That's
mop.
right. Now using the
And
microfiber tab on my face.
and obviously, we've spoken about yourself, we've spoken about me,
Yeah.
but the other guys, Dan and Lindsay, they're super connected and have had a life in the car industry or game as well. And Dan is working for Dirtfish.
Yep.
He does some stuff for the Peterson Museum.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's an amazing place. If you haven't gone, you definitely need to look it up and go. They do other things with motorcycle racing as well. Lindsay is very well connected in the Cobra and Shelby community. Her family is deep in the game and have some cars. So yeah,
Also in the auction community as well, and has done a
of
lot
course.
of work in that space.
And she's a journalist as well.
And
So
yeah, that's right. That's right.
she she's done a lot in her own right. So
Do,
yeah, hopefully as this journey goes on, we'll bring you exposure to different events. So I've
Yeah.
just gone to one. Actually, I bumped into Dan when I was there, um, which was great. You did an event a couple of weekends ago, which we've
Yeah.
got an episode on, Pikes Peak, and obviously you met Dan there. So now we know that Dan is a global,
Yeah.
jet setter. We're doing something wrong.
I'd love to call this a super group of sorts, myself excluded, of course.
The
But
Fab
super groups have
Four.
a really bad history, right? They look really good on paper, so we shall not call it a super group. But to
No.
that point, I think that between the four of us, we're very fortunate that we know so many people. We were able to attend, most of the events. We're all off to Car Week here, Monterey, Pebble Beach here in a few weeks. I'm personally very involved with the Colorado Grand organization here in Colorado, and it's very well known 1,000-mile in 5-day road rally with 1960 primarily in older cars. In fact, I'm hot and heavy in the middle of writing those car descriptions for this year's route book now, and so I'm hoping we can tap into those
And what a
relationships and
list of
experiences.
cars it is as
Oh
well.
my
There's some
God.
amazing, motors on that.
Yeah. Again, you talk about opening doors. It's one thing to see a car in a museum. It's another thing to ride in those cars, to hear them start up, to smell them, to see them in the garage. So very fortunate to be a small part of that as well. Here in Colorado, we've just got such a great car community and such wonderful roads. And, I've said this before, gone on record, but I would argue that Colorado's car community, car culture, cars that live here, probably only second to California. And we know what we spend plenty of time in California too, so we've got that covered. But
I will say, actually, coming back to the UK after living in California, I didn't know how good the scene was going to be here,
yeah,
but there's not enough time in the diary. There's,
that's
every weekend all around the country there is something going on, and I'm definitely trying to cherry pick because you can't go to everything and still be married and
that's
have a relationship with your family. The great thing is my son and is into cars. My daughter is into cars. So it's a labor of love, really,
yeah,
going
yeah.
to all these events.
I think that's a struggle we can all relate to. I've got an 11-year-old daughter. I'm married. I have a day job, that's demanding in its own right. And so,
Oh yeah, we have
that,
day jobs. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yours is a little cooler than mine, but, we're everymen, we're regular car guys in so many ways. And yeah, want to share those experiences. I mean, as I get older, realize there's nothing more precious than time. It's all that stuff that people said to me growing up they didn't believe because I thought it was money. No, it's time. And how do we slice up that available time to do the very best things that we can car
Yep.
wise? So
Yeah. So obviously, all the events that are coming up, as you say, we've got Car Week, we have Goodwood, there's Pikes Peak, we've got guests coming on, we've had
yeah,
a
the
few
grand's
guests
coming
already.
up for, well,
Yep.
a few weeks, it's,
Yep. This says revival. I'm doing bits and pieces as I am trying to get better work-life balance. What do you do? What is it? What is a car designer do in his spare time? Design cars,
yeah,
and tune cars and race cars.
yeah.
So um, I
Let's
haven't
not
spent
forget.
enough time behind. Sorry, go
Yeah.
on.
I was going to say, let's not forget about the Fat Ice Race, which hopefully we'll be
Oh,
attending again this year. That was a great
yep.
party. So that's here in Colorado, up in the
And
Aspen
I
area.
didn't
So
know that McLaren have an ice training center as well,
I
a
didn't
set of
know that.
events to go on. So
Okay.
if you buy a McLaren, you can then pay to go and yeah, do ice driving and get some tuition.
Huh.
So I'm having conversations at work about trying to get on that. Yeah, I'm then also shopping around trying to find a car or get hold of a car that we can go and maybe do the fat ice race. But
Oh,
if
that'd
I
be
can't, if
amazing.
I've left my run a little bit late, but if I can't get on that, the other end of the spectrum is drifting. So I'm shopping around for an Aussie Ute. And my good friend David at Porsche Santa Clarita, who gave me a private tour around an amazing collection of cars there. He and another friend, Sleepy, who's big in the D1 scene, they're going to help me get the car set up, and we're going to go do that. But before I
Amazing.
get in that car, I'm going to build a simulator here. So I'm going to try and get something half decent set up. I'm going to get out there and race Ben Collins, the Stig, another friend of the show. If you haven't watched his episodes, he's now doing more, trying to extend his career on a simulator instead of doing stunt driving or car racing, which is obviously
It was
expensive.
smart. Yeah.
Yeah. So and all the racing all the uh, Top Gear test track cars he drove, he's then doing those on the simulator and trying to get a better lap time around the Top Gear test track, which in the UK is called Dunsfold Airfield.
Right. Right.
So he's heading back to do that as well. So yeah, that's a great watch. He's definitely cutting his teeth in presenting as well.
Very cool.
Good guy. Take a watch. So we've got many things we're going to do. Obviously, I've got my new car.
Yeah.
We have when we're
Well, let's
in
talk about your new car because it's a
okay.
good one. We've got to, just to, I guess, as proof of our enthusiast chops, you've got
Yeah,
just to
good
deliver this
point.
beautiful 992.
Yeah, so it's something I had on order. I saw a picture of the 50th anniversary model, and so I went to Porsche and said, "Hey, can I turned 50? I thought it's perfect, you know, synergy."
Yeah.
I said, "Can I order one?" And the salesman laughed at me. He said, "Listen, there's no way you're going to get one of these." And I went, "Okay, well, what if I built my own from a spec book?" And then we did that through James Finn at Porsche Centre, West London, and basically created my own spec, the 992 Targa, black interior, black car, black limo tint glass, paid extra for black calipers because I didn't want red calipers. It was a real subtle car.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I say, it was pretty much 2 years from when I test drove to when I collected, and I love it. It's for me, it's everything. I use it as a daily. Again, going to Goodwood, through the grass field and the mud, and it came out looking like a Dakar at the end. It's what it is,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
good for
You're
all
using
occasions.
it.
Sun's out, yeah, the roof's
Yeah.
down. Might have done a launch or two in it, and it's an amazing car. And knowing that they had the 992.2 that was going to be a hybrid or
Mhm.
e-turbo, I thought maybe there's a bit of value in having the last clean um, like non-hybrid
Yeah.
spec
Yeah. I think there's
and
something to that.
yeah, ICE. And I think that prediction was right. There's a bit of
Yeah.
hate out there for the new model,
Yes.
but I
Yeah.
love the new model. I think
I,
bang for your buck. I think they've done
yeah.
an amazing job.
Yeah.
E-turbo is brilliant.
It's just, yeah, that the point too, not to get too far off the rails here. It's a different kind of car, I think. And I think personally, I prefer the point one myself. I've spent a lot of time in 992s lately. They are just so exceptional across the board. I've got a GT4 back here.
I was
It's
gonna
a
say, let's talk about
718.
your toy.
But
You've
those
got
992s make
a
this car
legit
seem
racer.
old fashioned in so many ways, Alan.
No.
It's just, for better or worse, right? This is my dream car. I was very fortunate to buy it new a few years ago, and it. I'm paying on it. I pay I pay every month on it, but it's my pride and joy. This car up here is not mine. I wish it. I wish it was. It's an '89 SL with about 35,000 miles. That belongs to my buddy Jim. But no, we're not just talk. This this is what we do when we're not talking too. So, yeah, and
My
you've had
goal
quite
here
a.
is to get my goal here is to get a bigger garage so I can have a ramp and I can store a couple of cars in there as well. I didn't even have a garage, so
Well, that's my problem. I think the garage is bigger than I currently can afford to fill it. But build it and they will come, right?
there you go.
The fish grows to the size of the aquarium. That's my philosophy here. So, but I kind of understand why a lot of guys get into cars in their retirement because they're expensive. They take time,
I
right?
was going to
Especially
say
if you
you
want
have
to
more
wrench
time
on
to use
something.
them as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So in the meantime, these tool chests and lifts are as much decoration as they are anything. But we'll get there. We'll get there. So, but I'm so excited to see where this show goes, Alan. Again, not only can you live vicariously through us, those of you watching and listening, but we're going to be living vicariously through friends, and whether they're amazing car photographers, writers, journalists, YouTubers, engineers, car designers, just big names. I wish I could share some of the names that we have in the hopper, but we'll get there and we'll meet them out in time.
Yeah. that's pretty much who we are, where we are, what we're trying to do, and where we're
Yeah.
going. So you're going to hear it all real time as we go through this and learn, more about how to do this. So
Yeah. Yeah. Stay tuned. Stick with us. Like I said, this is going to be video podcast. So this is a new thing for us. We've got to shower and brush our hair and, makeup and all that. No, kidding. But, it's going to be a little different, and it might take us a few episodes to find ourselves, find our voice, but we'll get there. I promise. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram as well, at the Roadshow Podcast. Also, my personal account at Ryan Barkey, Bahrke.
yep, and
You're
mine is Mr. underscore Alan Orchard, ALLEN Orchard, ORCHARD. And we have a YouTube account, which all these will be streamed on as well, and it's the Roadshow Podcast.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, the Roadshow is already taken, so we've had to evolve that. But we're a different game. So
that's right.
if you see two different guys, they're much more good looking than us. They're younger, fitter, richer. If you want to watch them, that's great. But please spend a little bit of time this way. So
I feel like that's most of the world anymore, but anyway. So, all right. Well, and I think, just so you know, Sunday nights is when we plan to release these shows. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us across all social media. And if you're in Denver or if you're in the UK, drop us a
yeah, if
note.
there's
We're
a
usually
car
out for a
event in
beer or
the
something
UK that
too.
you're
So,
going to, drop me a message. Let me know, and if I can come, I will.
all right. And that's it from the Road Show. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Alan.
See you next time.
Bye.